All right, so hopefully everyone should now know the scalar value of their model home. And now we're going to do something using that scalar value. We're going to figure out the square foot area of our actual house, and we're going to figure out what that means in terms of how expensive our actual house would be. There's a lot of steps here, but if we follow them step by step and try not to make mistakes, we should all get pretty accurate numbers. So we're going to be finding the price of our dream home. We're going to be using these scalar values and the square foot value to figure out how much our house would sell for. So let's start. So the first step we need to do to find the value of our house is find our scalar value. That was the previous lesson. If you don't have your scalar value already, you should go back and do the previous assignment. And I just give an example of what the scalar value means. If my model is 6 inches tall and the real life house is 300 inches tall, then the scalar value would be 50 because 6 times 50 is 300 because 300 is 50 times bigger than our scale model. So since the real one is 50 times bigger, that means we have a 50 to 1 scale model. These numbers are important. As long as you get that number from the previous lesson, you don't really have to understand it. We just have to follow everything step by step and plug things in correctly. It shouldn't be too much of a challenge. So let's start working. So step 2, let's set our snap grid to 1/4 inch and your edit grid units to inches. And this should also include that you should open up your project to a version of your house that doesn't have a roof. So this is my first floor, this is my second floor, and as you can see, I don't have a roof, so I can measure my floor plan out very effectively. So I'm going to click Edit Grid and change the units to inches, and Snap Grid and change the Snap Grid to 1/4. So Edit Grid, units, inches, update, Snap Grid, 1/4 inch. You could do maybe 1/8 or 1/16 if you want to be even more accurate, but it'll make your numbers a little bit harder to work with. So I'm going to stick with 1/4. The next thing we have to do is we have to find the area of our floor. We have to find the area that our house takes up. So we're going to cover each room in our house with a box. If your whole house is one box, then you could just cover your whole house to find the area of that. So there's a lot of steps here. So we're going to cover each room with a box. So I'm going to go in. Let me show you each step as it comes up. So take a box, and let's say I'm doing my movie theater room, which is over here, and I'm going to cover that room with a box. So that's step 1. I'm going to write down the length and width of each box. So the length of this is 3. Well, the width is 3, and the length is 4 1/4. Not that those words mean anything really, but that doesn't matter. We have to multiply the length by the width, and then we have to add up the multiplied lengths and widths for each room. And when we do that, we're going to find the area of our scale model in inches. So we're going to find the square inch area of our scale model. So that might sound like a lot of steps, but the next slide, it breaks down exactly what to do. So it's for each room, you're typing out the length and the width of the room and how much they multiply together. So this would be the area. So my movie theater is 3 inches by 4 inches. So since it's 3 inches by 4 inches, I would write down 3 by 4, and 3 by 4, 3 times 4 equals 12. So my area is 12 square inches. Maybe I should write that, square inches. My foyer, which is the room over here where you first walk in. Whoops, I moved my whole house. Let's say it's 3 by 1.5. So 3 and 1.5. So I write down these two numbers, and then we multiply them to find the area of that room. So 4.5 square inches. My kitchen/bathroom area is 3 And it's a rough estimate, so I'm not exactly perfect, but it's about 3 and 4 and a quarter. Is that the numbers I used? Yep, 3 and 4 and a quarter. So I write down the two numbers. I write down the length and the width of the box that covers up that room, and then I multiply them together to get the area of this room. When you sell a house, you sell it by how much square foot area it has. So that's why we have to find the areas of these rooms. If your house is all one big box, you could stretch a box out and find the area of your whole house, potentially. That's one option. So let's say my whole house was just a rectangle. Maybe I could do 7 times 4 if it was a 7 by 4 rectangle, and find that the area of my whole house was 28. And that might save you a lot of work, but I know people usually have more complicated houses than just rectangles. So that's for my first floor. So the total area for my first floor came out to 29.25 square inches. I'm going to write out square inches instead of square inches. So that's the area of my scale model. So now you guys should do the same process I did. You should go to each of your rooms, and maybe if you have more rooms, you could type in room 5. Or maybe if your whole house is just one big rectangle, you could just write, floor 1, floor, something like that. Floor 1, blah, blah, blah. Find the area of your whole floor. You guys should fill out this for each of your rooms, or if your whole house is, one rectangle, just fill it out for one. And that should give you the total area for that floor. I can't think of a single student besides maybe Daniel who has floors that have different areas. So I think this should be a pretty good format, is that you find the area of this first floor, and then to find the area of your entire model, you would just multiply the area of your first floor by the number of floors you have. That only works if all your floors have the same area. So if you have one floor that's a lot smaller, something like that, you might want to ask me, and maybe we could do something specific to you. But because all my floors are the same area, we could see that my upstairs, which is my bedroom, is the same area as my downstairs. I don't need to measure all this again. I know it's the same, so I'm just going to double this, and that's going to be the area of my whole house. So now I know that the whole house area is 58.5. So you, yes, you, the person watching this, you should figure out the area of your whole house, which is probably just going to be the area of your first floor times the number of floors you have. So some students have 3 floors that are all the same area. So maybe you do, maybe let's say the area this is 20 and you have 3 floors. You do 20, 40, 60 for your third floor. Maybe basement, upstairs, downstairs, 20, 40, 60 for each of those floors. And now you know that the total square inches area of floor space that you have is 20 or 60 square inches, something like this. And please, if this process is confusing, please let me know. So my house has a total area of 58.5 inches squared. My scalar value, which is from the previous slides, was 93. So I could follow this formula to figure out the square foot area of my actual house. This formula is we're going to multiply our scalar value by our scalar value by our area in inches squared, and then we're going to divide that by 144. And if anyone can tell me why we're dividing by 144, or why we're scaling it up 2 times, why we're multiplying by our scalar twice, I would love to know. If you could figure that out, you'll get a lot of bonus points. But for now, just know that following this formula, using the area of your house in inches, and using your scalar value, will get you the square foot area of your house. So I plug in my numbers for that. I had 93, 93, and then 58 square inches. And then I divide that by 144, and I get this big old thing, and I find that my house is about 3,513 square inches. Now you guys should do the same thing. You're graded on anything in red. So my scalar value, this is from the previous lesson, so you should go to those other slides, find your scalar value, and plug that in here, is, let's say, 100. 100, why not? The area of my house is whatever you found back here, so you should plug in whatever you found back here. And then you should replace wherever it says scalar in the formula, you should use the scalar value. So scalar value, and then area. So that's this number up here. You should plug in those things, and then you can, once you plug those in, you could copy this whole thing, put it into Google, and it'll find the number for you. So for example, let's say you did that. I could copy this whole thing. I could put that whole thing into Google, and it'll tell me my number for me. You could also use a normal regular calculator, but using Google as a calculator, if you're going to use a calculator, is usually a lot faster. Yep, so then you're going to take that number, whatever you find. That's going to be the square foot area of your house. You can get rid of those end digits. We don't need them. You could actually round them up, so this should technically be a 6. But if you don't know rounding, we don't need to go over that in this class. Now let's find the cost of your home. So once you find the square foot area of your house, we can multiply it by 150, because if you're buying a house in Middletown, it usually sells for $150 for each square foot. So if we multiply 150 by how many square feet we have, we'll get the price of our house, assuming it's $150 per square foot. So for my house, I have a very big house. It would be $526,000. So let's see what a $526,000 would look like. House would look like in Middletown. Curiosity. Middletown. Now let's not do this right now. Here's a $300,000 house. This is pretty nice looking. Pretty big, pretty spacious. This could be my movie theater room. Who knows? But yeah, mine's a little bit bigger than these. But anyway, so that would be my model house, and that would be its value in the real world. And that might be hard to tell because it does look kind of small from this, but all of these rooms are very spacious. This bed is like a California king, but it does look kind of cramped. I don't know. Yeah. So again, by multiplying the area of my house, my actual house, the square foot area, which was 3,500 square feet, times the price per square foot of a house in Middletown, which I gave you, is about $150. It varies, but it's about $150. We could find the value of our house. How much would it sell for? The last thing you might want to do is you can do this bonus point slide, which I'm going to leave to you to read and do. Please, if you had any questions, you can go over this video. You could pause, rewatch sections, go through it step by step. If you have any questions, if you need help, I will take time to go over this with individual students who are struggling with it. And as always, we're going to be doing this at least once in class. So hopefully it's not too bad. If you're having a hard time, please shoot me an email. I'm always available. And that being said, I will see you all another day. Goodbye, my wonderful students. I'll see you later.